Hello, this is Thomas back with, obviously since I'm here, this is going to be more education-based video, which we feel is of the most urgent matter. We have been asked and have been seeing some rather interesting things based on a newer term that has begun to surface among systems in social media sites and such, known as a term known as NPC. Most of you that are gamers of any kind will understand that term, and we will go into that a bit. And also, we've also been receiving questions based on shell alters and fragment alters. Now, we have been seeing that many believe that they are one and the same thing, that all shells are fragments of fragments. And we are here to tell you that no, that is not what they are. There is a fragment alter and there are shell alters, and there is a very distinct difference between the two. And that is what I'm about to explain to you. Shell alters are AMPs, host alter, front persons, whatever term you wish to use for them, that handle daily life and are designed to hide the existence of other alters from the outside world. Now, shell alters, here's the distinction, do not exist in DID systems. They do exist, but only in one form of OSDD. That is it. So if you are technically diagnosed with DID and feel you may have shell alters, then you may in fact have OSDD. Or, if you have OSDD but don't seem to have shell alters, you may have, misdiagnoses happen all the time, and you can always go back and have things, second opinion, so to speak, from somebody else. Now, this ANP is a shell basically from which the inside parts will act. Basically a forerunner. Now, these parts can come near the surface and sort of temporarily blend with this AMP. Now, these inside parts are not regarded as separate or distinct states, although amnesia can be present within them. Now, if this OSDD that has the shell alters is caused by ritual abuse and or a form of mind control, then the shells are made to not know about these other alters or states, because with this form of OSDD, they're not considered full-fledged alters. Now, with that being said, fragments. If you all have seen our past videos on auto roles and functions, you will have heard that fragments are basically one-dimensional alters as opposed to a three-dimensional full alter, so to speak. Now, here is the thing. We've also been hearing terms, a new term that some of you may not have heard, or some may even use for their systems, is NPC, or non-playable character. It is originally a gamer term. However, I am going to speak to you on the fact as to how that term is severely inappropriate, because in DID systems, or systems in general, there is no such thing as an NPC. That type of alter does not exist. The only kind of alters that you will find in a system is fragments or alters. That is it. There is no such thing as an NPC. Now, for those of you who are asking what is an NPC, in the gaming industry, an NPC, a non-playable character, is a character that basically takes up space into a game. Say, if you need wares and must buy something, it will be generally a shop owner or a person you meet on the street that can give you a clue to the next quest. Things such as that. You cannot openly use these characters in your gaming. However, they can be of use in fulfilling a certain role. Now, the reason why this term can be so degrading is it gives the people, systems included, the idea that, one, people with the ID, OSDD in general, are just making it up. Everything is complete fantasy, that alters and everything else can be created, as per the terms that the whole riot that was caused when there were systems coming out as endogenic, meaning that they were systems without trauma, which per research has proven that that is not possible. Now, however, there are other, I believe there's some called tulila systems that are more of a spiritual basis, but there are complete distinctions between the two. And the reason why this term, as of late, has been so up in arms is because, as I've said, one, people assume that systems are purely fantastical, and that, two, we have heard from other systems in asking their opinions as to what they consider NPCs to be, that is what they are. Placeholders within the system, but that have no importance. And this sometimes word for word as to what they have said. However, if DID and every altar within that system is meant to have an importance of some kind, then how is it that you are turning around and saying, no, this is considered an NPC altar and has no importance whatsoever, but is there to take up space? That does not make any sense. There is no such thing as an altar that is not important, that is not there for a reason. And to also help in explaining that more, we are actually co-conscious with Gavin, who we feel is the most qualified to go into describing his story and things such as that, to hopefully make this point across as to being very careful as to the terms that you use for altars, because it can be very detrimental to system communications and can cause major issues later on, should you choose and decide that you want to try communicating with said altars. And if you will give us just a moment, he is here close to the front, but we have been heavily dissociated lately, and we're not quite sure how long this will take for him to fully take the spot, so to speak. Please be patient with us. We're going to pause and be right back. Oh, okay. It didn't take as long as I thought it was going to be. Alright. Hey, everybody. Name's Gavin. Some of you remember me from a previous video that we've done. Some of you don't know me yet. I know usually when we do our videos, we don't really differentiate between who's who, because we don't really care, as long as the info gets out there. Thank you, Thomas, for that little intro. Okay, so talking about NPCs, and from what I guess it's going to be kind of a little bit more like a TED Talk, or I don't know, like a thing. For me, the term NPC, or considered as a non-important altar, this is where it gets me, especially when it was that we found out that there were other systems. Now, don't get me wrong, these type of altars that people consider, oh geez, sorry, the vocal change, it gets us sometimes. As Thomas was saying, people consider NPCs to be considered non-important alters. Basically, they're just little placeholders that take up a spot, but they're not really important for anything. This is what irritates me about that term, because originally, when I first arrived, I would have been considered an NPC alter or a non-important alter, because not much was known about me. I was basically just there, and I mean, now I'm like a main protector. I mean, can you see what I'm trying to say here? People make up these terms to try to explain certain alter placements, but basically labeling them as unimportant, and people don't understand what that does. Like, I mean, can you imagine if, and this is word for word that we have heard some systems when we've asked them what they think an NPC is, they basically say it's an alter that is not important. It just takes up space. Why the hell would you need an alter to just take up space? That doesn't even make any sense. It's like, but can you see the idea that it puts once that alter realizes that they are placed in a spot like that? I mean, do you imagine how detrimental communication with that alter is going to be? I mean, seriously. Yeah, when I first arrived, nobody hardly knew anything about me. Obviously, I was still new. But then come to end up finding out that I have an uncle. It's like, who has, his own backstory, and then I ended up having my own full backstory. But nobody would have ever known that if they did not take the time to actually talk to me or figure anything out about me. So it's like, and people can't seem to understand why their communications with their systems are terrible. It's like, stop doing what your abusers did to you guys. That's basically, for us, even personally, we were basically considered as, some of that trauma was, we were not important. Our opinions, our thoughts, nothing mattered. But you guys basically turn around and do the same thing with your systems. Why do it? It is absolutely not necessary. There is no such thing as a worthless alter. A question we get a lot of the time, particularly towards Breath, because she's considered the original, is that how do you manage with so many in your system? Now, for those of you that have seen our past videos, we are a heavily polyfragmented system. Last numbers we've seen, 10 to 12,000 alters. And the question we get a lot of the times is, how do you manage with all of that? When really, like, why does that matter? I mean, in just saying in general, when there are other stuff like this going on, people think systems are a joke to begin with. So, not everybody, but some people. But it's like, if people already think you're a joke, why do you go and turn around and make up terms or use terms that have nothing to do as a placement for things that it should not ever be a placement for? Like, keep things in their place. I don't know. I mean, yeah, generally I don't care what term you use, but use it in a proper context. And don't be putting labels on people, because that's basically what you do. You're putting labels on your parts as to deem of what you think is important and what's not, when that's not how it should be. Like I said, I mean, I at first it's like, if that was the case, then all alters would be considered NPCs, which, again, there is no such thing in a system. It's like, yeah, I mean, you can have fragments that are, like, so one-dimensional that there's like nothing to them, but fragments can grow. That's how it works. When you take the time and you're patient and you work on trying to figure out what it is they have and what made them. I mean, it's like with flowers or kids, you know, you nurture them, you treat them right, you take care of them so that they grow. It's the same concept for a fragment. We can become full alters, but from what I'm saying, it's just that people either one, don't know how to go about doing it, which our next video is actually going to be based on communication, and how you can communicate with some, like, with not just like the harmful alters, but with all of your alters. This is a pretty much general rule that we use for everybody that shows up. And we'll also go over our 3 system rules that everybody has to follow, no matter what, if they want to be part of the family, so to speak. I mean, everybody's family, but we have certain rules of behavior so that, you know, nobody gets hurt, basically. Because, I mean, everybody's already hurt enough. I mean, that's the whole reason, like, you exist. You know? It's like, why keep adding that hurt? I don't know, it's just... For me, this is, I guess, just kind of more of an emotional topic because, you know, being as that I was originally considered a fragment, and, you know, but if it wasn't for Breath, I mean, when pre-integration, she was Beth. You know, if it wasn't for the fact that she didn't have that mentality, I guarantee you that she would not ever have come as far as she has now. Like, yeah, there's 10,000, 12,000 of us, and yeah, those numbers are freaking daunting because it's like, what do you do with that many people? But you know what? She's trying. We're all trying, you know, to try to find as many as we can, try to get to know all of them. You know, yeah, you don't maybe have to work with as many as you would others, but everybody has an importance and has a place somewhere in that system, not to just be labeled as some placeholder because they're considered unimportant and don't have enough depth to them. It's like, really? I don't know. Like I said, I mean, you can use whatever term you want for your alters, but just understand what it's going to cause if you do. Like, from talking to some systems, we've noticed that people that do have what they like to call NPCs have a lot of system chaos. I mean, that's just from general observation of what we have seen in talking to some systems. Now, you're going to have some bumps in the road when it comes to, you know, communication and, you know, if a new alter shows up that just happens to be on a little bit more on the troubled side. You know, that's a given. But don't cause your own problems. You know, I mean, this disorder, if you guys want to call it that, but this way, I guess you could even say way of living, is not easy as it is. Like, I mean, just on top of all the comorbid disorders you can have with it, it's like, life is hard enough without making it harder. But I don't know. I mean, I hope this video was helpful. I'm sure I probably offended some people with it, but I mean, that's just my personal opinion on it. But I mean, our original never considered anybody to be unimportant, so maybe we just all have a little bit of that to an extent. But I don't know. Like I said, I mean, if nothing else, hopefully you at least learn something on it. But that's basically all we just wanted to talk about, was stuff like that. Like differences between shells, fragments, and explaining that term NPC, because like Thomas was saying, we've been hearing it popping up a lot, and it's been causing some issues in the DID and OSDD communities and stuff like that. So we haven't found a video or seen one talking about it. I know there's a lot of people trying to keep it hush-hush, but it's like things don't get taken care of keeping it hush-hush. So anyway, but like I said, that's all we got for right now. And I mean, you guys can leave a comment, but don't be hateful about it, please. But you know, if you have an opinion or a comment for another question or anything for another video, the next one, like I said, is going to be talking more along the lines of communication, because that's another question we've been getting a lot, is having issues with problem alters and not knowing really how to talk to them and getting like, but like I said, it'll be like it's basically what worked for us, and like a general rule of thumb for all alters. You may have to tweak it a little bit depending on which alters you're working with, but it generally works pretty well. You know, usually it's just a matter of being, you know, kind, patient enough to see those end results. And let me tell you, sometimes it can be very testing. But anyway, we're gonna go to bed because we got to get up early for work tomorrow. And like I said, if you guys have any comments or anything, feel free to hit us up on the comments section below of this video, or for those of you that watch us on or follow us on Pinterest or Instagram, you can always message us privately too. We don't mind. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.